Okay, so yesterday I shared the vision of the three men that were bounded to each other. As you can see, the neck has those thick iron clasp linked by the chain to each other, and around the waist, the same metal attaching each other, and the same on the feet. You can see the links with the chain, and the arms locked together, bounded by the chains. And then the Spirit came back today to reveal. And so in this video, I'm going to just go through or do a summary of what we read and a final conclusion. Because in the previous video, I read directly from that scripture. And now I'm going to just simplify the message. If you're an artist and you're able to replicate this for me, do a better job of it, and give that to me, I would really and truly appreciate it. The image is very graphic, but it is clear that the Spirit is going to break it down for us. And as it happens, I will share. In the scripture, we are told that, the people of Judah were going to be gathered and to be brought down to the valley of Jehoshaphat. And for those of you who don't know who Jehoshaphat is, he was a king, a righteous king, by the way, that was ruling in Judah. And when he saw the destruction coming upon his people, he actually prayed and asked, and his prayer went something like this: "Oh, our God, will you not judge them? For we have no power to face them, for we have no power to face the vast army that is attacking us. I do not know what to do. Our eyes are upon you." And I think it's pretty much similar to what we are going through in the world today. That when people look at all these intimidating armies in the world, if you are a spiritual person, you're going to feel desperate. And when you feel desperate, you have to turn to the great spirits. And so, as was the case with King Jehoshaphat, he fasted and prayed for victory. And the moment he went into fasting, the motion was in play for him and his people to receive protection. And so Jehoshaphat was told, "Do not be afraid of the army, or because the battle is not yours, it's the Lord." That's what he heard from the spirits. And so in Joel 3, we're told that the fortunes of Judah and Jerusalem will be restored. And those who prosecuted the people of Judah would be put on trial, and that the inheritance of the people of Israel would be restored. Because these ones have scattered and divided up the people. They cast lot for the people. They trade the boys and sold the girls. Listen, you don't have to go far away. You don't need binocular or, whatever device they use to see in the distance. You don't need that to see, in our time, what is happening to our boys. How our boys are being indoctrinated on one hand, or how our boys are recruited, into some things, some nasty worlds, You don't have to go far away. Just take a trip to certain parts of the world and you see these statues with men and little boys. You know, these parts of the world that, for Greece, for example, it was their entertainment to, meddle with boys. And you've seen the church and how things have been revealed about what they have done to boys. And so none of this is strange. This all makes sense. And then we hear about Tyre and Sidon, which is regions of Philistia, the Philistines. I got a poem in my book talking about the Philistines. You could check that out. Their role back then and their role to this day. Silver and gold is carried off, and the things from the African, and we're still using that term, although we know that that word doesn't come from, that's not the original word. We hear about Kemet, we hear about alka, sorry, I'm struggling remembering this word. Akebelan? If you know the right pronunciation, please say in here. We're not going to get distracted with semantics. But we know it was never called Africa. It was renamed, as is everything else that belongs to us, our language, our names, our places, our inheritance, everything, disguised or distorted. And so in the scripture, it talks about silver and gold that is carried off, our treasures removed and taken to different parts of the world. The people of Judah and Jerusalem sold to the Greeks and the Sabaeans, find out who those are. We hear about the Edom, who are these people. But what we do know about them is that they're violent and bloodshed of innocent people, our people have been on their shoulder. Egypt will be left desolate. Not the Egypt that we see today, that they name, the place in Africa that they name Egypt, or, that's not the place that this scripture is talking about. But the spirits are saying prepare for war. And when you hear about war, it's not just physical warfare, it's spiritual. It's very important. Last night, with a select few persons, I shared an article about Sophia, the robot woman who wants to start a family. And, who I can clearly see is now who we as humans are expected to simulate. And we'll talk about that in another video. And so we have to prepare for these warfare. And you have to ask, who is Israel and who is going to be warring against Israel? Because the lies are so much and they're so deep that, it's going to be difficult for someone who has a Western mindset and these, indoctrination and about to be inoculated with even more misinformed ideas and deeds. We have to now understand that when that starts to happen, when we allow these things to penetrate our mind and our hearts and our bodies, we can no longer accept the truth. It'll be too late. And so this morning when the Spirit said, throw in the sickle, the harvest is ripe, I had to go and look at the sickle again and see what it does. It's like, gleaning the harvest, bundling it up together and tying it up into neat piles so that you can now say, okay, it's time for harvesting, not just harvesting of our bodies, but of our minds. Some time before, I told you guys about these huge vats that I saw in the community where I come from back home, filled with food, and I could tell that that was food shortages coming. And so in the scripture this morning, it was another confirmation, but it talks about how the vats are filled with their wickedness, and and how multitudes are going to be forced to make a decision. It talks about the sunlight and the moonlight that will be disappearing, and earthquakes that we are supposed to expect. As far as the Edomites are concerned, they established a kingdom in the southern area of Jordan, and they migrated into the southern part of Judah, which is Israel, or it's referred to as Negev. Look that word up. And so we know why we as African people were referred to as the N word, because in reality, this is who we were, these people from this region. And so Judah was then weakened and destroyed by the Babylonians in the 6th century BC. This information is here. It's not hidden. It is very clear that our heritage, even though many people lied and showed us a part of our history that wasn't real, they couldn't hide the whole truth. And it was here for us for a long time. Many of us didn't want to accept it. Even for me, when people would say, we're not from Africa and whatever, I was thinking of the landmass where African people came from and was very offended. And so if I speak of Africa, I still have to think of the melanated people. But in truth and reality, we are not Africans as they named us. We are Israelites, the real Israelites, the people that have been removed, that have been, the brunt of these suffering, these horrible deeds. And today, a manifestation of that, the continued destruction of our people and the separation of our people, and a constant desire to destroy our people is ever present. It is very clear. And I don't listen to men or women. I listen to the spirits, because when they're teaching, when they're trying to show you something, they're preparing you for greater truth. And if you don't stay in tune and listen to what they're saying, how are you going to escape the judgment? Because we're thinking it's judgment coming from the heavens upon man because we're wicked. No, it is upon us from other wicked men in the world who seed and their seed for generation have done the same thing, the same nature, the same spirit, attacking our firstborn, attacking even the ones who didn't come here yet. The Spirit also revealed something to me that was very profound this morning, understanding the twins, how one perish because they are destroyed for whatever reason. And yet, as Israelites, we are still like firstborn, newborn, still struggling to live. There will be another part to this as I break it down. And I know the purpose of this is to get us to the place where we're no longer afraid, where we understand certain things so that we're not making the wrong choice or the wrong decisions in our life. And that we're getting to that place where we're open to the Spirit's teaching us. But not just that, to return to our home. And that means spiritually and physically. Because in parts that are not considered as your home, you are out here like fish out of water. And you can't do those powerful things that we have the power to do because we're not connecting with the spirits or the energies that recognize us and know us. We're talking to gods that don't recognize us, calling the names of people who, when we call those names, it only empowered the ones whom they know and who know them. And so I think this is a time of revelation, a time of bringing us home and gathering us as a people, a time to, take heed and to remove yourself from, things that desecrate the temple. When the temple is your physical body, because if you desecrate this physical body, the spirits can't come in and they can't stay around you. And they're here, they're ready to teach you, to show you, to provoke your understanding, increase your wisdom. Stay blessed.